Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stigma-Free Society. I'm Nisha. I have Wellness Chats with Nisha, and that's every Thursday at 11 a.m. And I interview some amazing people. And my background is I am a clinical counselor. I used to be a teacher. I am also a director producer now. And so I'm really fascinated by people's stories and also fascinated by like living our best lives and mental wellness. And so I'm really thankful to be here with you today to talk about some amazing experiences people go through. And so I have a fantastic person I'm interviewing today. Her name is Jackie. And Jackie, let me just bring her in. And here we go. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, good morning, Nisha.
Good morning.
And everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you here this morning. So, a bit about Jackie. She has attended the new Clubhouse development training in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and also visited Clubhouse in New York City, the days when we could travel. And her background includes property management and administrative skills. She's worked with BC Transit, Camosun College, and BC Ministry of Agriculture. So she's volunteered at Victoria's Women's Transition House until her son's illness required her time. And we'll talk a bit about that as well today. So currently she serves as the chair of the board at Connections Place. And so welcome, Jackie. Great to have you here. And thanks for coming and sharing with us today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
So Jackie, you're in Victoria. How are things in Victoria right now? How's pandemic world in Victoria?
Well, we're blessed to be on the island because it's minimal here. I don't know what the latest is cases, but the last I checked, it was 7.
Oh, wow.
It just jumped up a little bit. Before it was always maybe 1. So, but we're very fortunate here, and fingers crossed we remain so.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that. I think, BC, let's keep it going. Let's stay healthy. So, Jackie, let's talk a bit about you. Let's talk about you, your kind of previous experiences, and how you came to be part of Connections Place. And maybe you can tell us, for people watching also, like, what is Connections Place?
Well, Connections Place is a nonprofit society, and it's based on the Clubhouse model. The Clubhouse model is 70 years old now. It started out in 1948 in New York City.
Oh.
And yeah, so what it was formed by a group of people who were discharged from a psychiatric hospital without the supports. So, nothing's really changed a lot in those years, but that's the way it was for them. They didn't have these supports. And they would meet, the group of them, I'm going to say 5 to 10 people, I don't know exactly, but a small group of people would meet on the steps of the New York City Library.
Oh, wow.
That's how they started to meet and connect and plan and think about their lives. And so it developed, they started a clubhouse, and they found a person with deep pockets who provided a brownstone for them right in Hell's Kitchen area of New York City.
Cool.
And it's the same space, but it's bigger. I think they've been able to get more space as time has progressed. And about early on in their quest, I think it was in the early 50s, a gentleman by the name of John Beard joined them. He's a social worker, was a social worker. He's passed away now. And he helped them form help them form their program so that it really started to blossom. So it's based on being needed, being wanted, a place to go, having purpose, just being a part of life again, instead of being holed up in your apartment somewhere on the street alone. You're part of this group. You belong, right? Because so often, not all the time, but so often people don't have anybody. They don't have family. They don't have friends. They've got nobody. And I've experienced this firsthand with my loved one. You know, you lose touch of life altogether. And you're just, I tell people it was like when high school ended for my son,
Yeah.
it was like all his peers got on the school bus in the parking lot and went off to do their thing. They went off to university, they went off to get married, you know, they got married, they went off, their careers, their life developed.
Yeah.
Whereas with my son, he was stuck in that parking lot alone. That's what it felt like. It felt very isolating. Even for me, it felt very isolating. So it's so important to have a place to belong, to be part of a group of people with like-minded ideas.
Yeah.
So it developed, and now I don't know exactly what the membership is of the Clubhouse International in New York City. The Fountain House it's called. That's the original clubhouse, but it's big.
Is that?
Oh yeah, I visited there in 2014, and it's like the White House. It's so grand.
Wow.
Yeah, you think, oh, it's, you know, not going to be that nice maybe, but it's beautiful. It's grand.
Oh,
and the people who work in the clubhouse are the members.
Right. That's what I think is very cool. That, yeah, it's run by the members.
So without the members, there wouldn't be the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Now, there is a small number of paid staff to oversee things and make sure the ball keeps rolling.
Yeah.
But it's divided into groups, into units. Every clubhouse is the same. Because the Fountain House in New York City was so successful, there's now over 330 of these models worldwide.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So Norway just announced they were funding 6 additional clubhouses. So now they're going to have, at the end of 2021, I believe it is, they're going to have 20 clubhouses.
Wow.
In Norway. Yeah, so there's 18 across Canada, including us is 19 in Victoria.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful model, and it's based, so they break the clubhouse into units. There'll be like the wellness unit, there's the employment unit, the education unit, and it just, everybody gets together and they make it work. People get back into working through transitional employment program, which is unique to the clubhouse model. Very unique to them and very successful. But of course, now with COVID, everything's kind of different. Yeah. In our own clubhouse, it's very different.
Yeah, I could imagine. Are people coming into the clubhouse currently, or? Yes,
in our clubhouse, they are. There was a bit of a break when the COVID situation hit. We were closed. We suspended services.
Yeah.
The physical operation ceased, but we had a robust virtual program, and also our outreach program expanded. It really expanded, and members of the clubhouse, we're close to 200 members now. We're very interested in this, and they developed this program, and everybody reached out to one another and kept in touch. And as a result of that, a cycling group was formed.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's just, that's what it's all about. It's people networking and problem solving and making it work.
Wow. And so who could be part of the clubhouse? Like, for people watching, if, you know, they feel like, oh, I know someone, or I myself would want to join the clubhouse, like, what's the criteria for coming and becoming a member or volunteering at the clubhouse?
So every clubhouse is pretty much this, it's the same, because there's standards, 37 international standards that I say it's like the recipe for a cake. You know, if you follow all these standards, you know, you will have these great successes. So back to your question, 18 is the age of membership.
Yeah.
And anybody can join if you have a history of mental illness. You just apply. There's one in Richmond on the Lower Mainland, and there's one in Sechelt.
Great.
And the one in Richmond is accredited, which means they've met all those 37 international standards.
Yeah, I've interviewed the Richmond.
You do?
Clubhouse, and it just seems like a great program. Seems like a great place. They have a lot of love for the community.
Well, it's a wonderful program. And so when I first discovered the program in 2014, I went to Richmond, and I knew immediately that was the big piece of the puzzle missing in our own city.
Oh.
Because there's just there's services out there for sure and programs, but nothing that was really fitting for my son.
Right. Maybe you could tell us a bit about, yourself and your son, and like kind of what the background is, what your journey has been.
Well, it was pretty average, until this all happened. We were just a busy family and doing our own thing, high school for my boys, and I was working part-time. My husband still works at the hospital. Just a busy family, dogs, and just going on holidays. Everything was normal until my son was in middle school. And it was about 2008, I noticed things were starting. The anxiety was really high.
Yeah.
And we had to make a lot of revisions in his school system and the school regime, take classes and take tests and what have you. A lot of juggling around to make that all work out so that he could graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, ever since then, though, it's been a real journey, dealing with the isolation, dealing with anxiety. Social anxiety was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming along, but it's always, to this day, it's never an easy road.
Can you give us an example of, like what would happen with the social anxiety?
Well, couldn't go to school.
Okay.
An upset stomach in the morning.
Okay.
And I think things have improved a lot.
Yeah.
Since then. I
mean,
mean,
physically saying like, I don't feel well, my stomach hurts, I don't think I can go to school, but just seeing that repeatedly.
Yeah.
But not like being like, even if you go to the doctor, you're not quite sure, like, oh, what is it? Like, I'm not sure why you have an upset stomach. But then eventually you thought like, okay, maybe it's actually anxiety, not something else that's going on.
Yeah. So it's been a real rough go.
Yeah. So as a parent, it's a lot of pressure as a parent, because we just all want the best for our children. And like I was saying earlier, we just want them to be happy and successful. And so as a parent, like I have little ones, 5 and 8, they're sick this week. And my whole focus is, let's get you better. Let's get you through this cold. But I think when it comes to mental wellness, it's not, let's just get you through this. It's a continuous journey.
Yeah, it's continuous. And I encounter a lot of stigma.
Do you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. In the system. And
tell us about that.
Unfortunately, addictions has been part of the equation too.
Addictions, yeah. Sometimes it's like comorbidity, right? Like dual diagnosis. And sometimes when people might not realize that, okay, like if someone's an addict, it's not just that, it's that they may be turned to substances because they're trying to numb out or dull the pain or stop the thoughts. And so people don't realize like how common that is, I think.
Yeah, it's very common. Very common.
It's common. Yeah. And in some ways, like, when you think about it, it seems like, okay, yeah.
I've just set my little dog. Oh, here she is. She sounded like she was chewing on something she shouldn't chew on, but she's here now. She's good.
She's so cute. I feel like we should just have her in the interview.
For a few minutes. You can be part of the interview for a couple of minutes. There you go.
Hi, Bonnie. How cute is Bonnie?
Yeah.
Bonnie must bring a lot of happiness.
She does. She's really sweet.
Yeah.
It's a joy.
I've seen so many people getting pets during this pandemic.
No.
It helps, I think. It helps. Helps feel good, and feeling good is important. And so, Jackie, I really appreciate you sharing about the experience of you as a parent going through and learning about, like, okay, well, like, what do we do now if your son is experiencing these things? Like, how do you work within the school system? How do you work? Like, what other resources are out there? Like, what was your path? Was it easy? Could you find things? Could you just say, like, oh, this is what's going on for us and this is what I need? Or like, how did you find what you need? Because I'm sure there are parents out there that are going through this, especially now, because I think as we're in this kind of pandemic, there's a lot of different things that are coming up and pressures, not only for kids, but also for parents. What can you say? Like, what advice can you give to people? How do they get help? Where do they go?
Well, it helped him not going to school.
Not going to school? Okay.
Not going to school. And we were able to make some accommodations. Like, he took Taekwondo, for example, so that helped, getting his physical education part looked after.
Great.
And just getting his driver's license, taking driver's, the young driver's classes. Like, we made the school was very flexible in that regard, so that was good.
Amazing.
Yeah, they were very helpful. But I think things have even improved now. That's going back, probably close to 15 years ago now. Well, it would be, yeah. So I think things are even better now. I think there's more openness, more discussion about your mental health in school, I hope.
So back then you felt it wasn't as open?
No.
I can imagine.
No.
I think we've come a long way, even in 15 years. Like, it might not seem like it's easy, but I think we've made a lot of progress.
Yeah, I think so. But there's more to be done, and the stigma around mental health and addictions is still there, and I think that's why we're seeing so much homelessness, because let's face it, a big reason why there's so much homelessness is because of the mental health system. I mean, I've had a situation with my own son where he was turned away from hospital on many occasions when he was in dire straits. Yeah. Dire straits, in full psychosis, with an egg salad sandwich and a bus pass. So that's not good enough.
No, it's
that's
not.
not good enough. So there's a lot of people out there struggling still. And that wasn't that long ago, so it's not improving.
I think it's interesting. I've had some conversations with, like a variety of people. And I recall last month talking to someone, and they said their big thing was, well, where's this money going to help people with addiction and just giving them more? And I was like, but I don't think you understand. It's not just people are choosing to be an addict.
No, you don't choose to be an
addict. There are things that lead up to this. And so, there's struggles that people have. And as a society, let's try to help people before it even gets to that point. Like, let's look at what can we do earlier on? How can we support families so they can support their children, and that children feel safe and comfortable, all those things. Kind of like what Connections does, Connections Place, it's offering people like a safe place, a place of acceptance, a place where they can be with peers. Just, it sounds pretty amazing. Like, what kind of other services does Connections Place offer?
What kind of other services? Well, right now we're limited because of our funding. We don't have sustainable funding.
Right.
So I'm going to talk about what a full-fledged evidence-based. First of all, I want to say that the Clubhouse program is evidence-based, scientifically proven to keep people out of hospital.
Wow.
It is.
That's huge.
And to have people housed too. So the New York City Clubhouse, for example, Fountain House, 99% of their members are housed.
Amazing.
Yeah. And the Richmond Clubhouse, they have amazing housing program. They have housing within the community that's funded partially by BC Housing. They have an apartment block, Alexandria Court, And they also have in the process of building a brand new apartment building. They got $12 million from the provincial government several years ago now. Just about 4 years ago now, just before the last election. So they're building a huge tower of housing for their members. So that I'm giving you examples of, you say what you asked, what does the clubhouse, what kind of programs do they do? Yeah. So it's housing, it's social, the Pathways Clubhouse, they're open. Now I'm talking not COVID times.
Yeah.
This is what the clubhouse does.
Yeah.
They're open 7 days a week. Every day of the year, including Christmas Day, they're open. They celebrate Christmas on Christmas. They celebrate Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving. They're open in the evenings. They have a young adult program too, specially designed for young adults. So they have housing, they have, the employment program is huge. Transitional employment. Dave McDonald in Richmond, he would be able to tell you exactly how many jobs they have. But if he were to say 50 jobs in the area, I wouldn't be surprised.
Wow.
What is Clubhouse? And there's lists of jobs available for people to apply for.
So exciting.
Yeah. So what he'll do is he'll take a job, say in a fish plant, a full-time job. He'll develop a relationship with that person who's managing the fish plant. Yeah. And they'll divide the job in half. So it's like a morning shift and an afternoon shift. The job lasts for typically 9 months long.
Yeah.
The clubhouse trains the person. So the fish plant personnel don't train. The clubhouse learns the ropes and they train the person.
Amazing.
There's no interview involved. There's no resume involved. All of this is done in-house in the clubhouse.
It's so much support.
Yeah, and they train people how to do the job, and if they're sick for whatever reason, the clubhouse will cover that position in the fish plant by either a member who's already done that job, or a staff person.
There's so much support, and I think that that's really what people need, and that's what can keep us going. Because if you have a job and suddenly I can't make it because of some reason, you're not feeling well, then there becomes like a stigma at the workplace, and then I can't manage that.
And so say something went a little bit off in the morning, your morning shift, whatever. I can't think of an example, but things happen.
Things happen.
So instead of going home and fretting about it,
yes,
and being alone and just wondering, I wonder what happened. I won't go in tomorrow. I better quit. Whatever. Yeah. You go to the clubhouse after your shift, have lunch, brainstorm with the staff or fellow members, and just explain what happened.
Wow.
And then there's this conduit of support around you. And the clubhouse can actually talk to the people at the fish plant too. Wow. So that's amazing, because so many times there's big gaps in employment for people, and you have these big years and years maybe where you haven't worked. How do you explain that? So that's resolved. You don't have to worry about that.
Because even having, something go wrong at work and you don't have anyone to talk to, often when there's mental health issues, I think a lot of the go-to would be like to pull away, to quit. I can't deal with this. I don't know how to manage it. But having support, you don't have to go down that path. And also just having a job gives confidence. Giving back to society and receiving, that whole circular thing makes you feel good about life.
It's really key. Wow. And when I was at the clubhouse in New York City, I was given a tour by a member. That's another thing. Members give the tours, not a staff person.
Love it.
Members give tours. And she looked at her watch. She said, "Oh dear, it's 11:30. I've got to fly. I've got to get to my job at the Wall Street Journal." She works in the mailroom.
So cool.
So it's just this ongoing flurry of activity in the clubhouse. People work in the kitchen. I didn't talk about the restaurant, or not the restaurant. Well, there could be a restaurant unit, a coffee shop unit. that supplies a lot of work for people.
Wow.
Yeah, because people, the members help plan meals, budget for them, shop for the food, prepare the food, serve the food.
Wow.
And it can really develop, you can get tablecloths all set up nicely, just like in a restaurant, depending on your clubhouse.
Wow.
It just, the sky's the limit, really, as to what can go on in there.
Just gives so much meaning, right? It gives people meaning, community, building something together. It's amazing. And so, even like the work that you're doing, it's so meaningful. Maybe you could tell us a bit, you also volunteered at Victoria's Women's Transition House. Maybe you could talk a bit about that work that you've done.
Well, I did that for a few years. I'm really drawn to that, such a vital piece needed in our community. My own mother had to go there.
Wow.
She did many, many years ago now. My dad, he struggled with his mental health, and he had addiction issues too. And people don't seem to understand that it's all, I'm not saying in every case.
Yeah.
But in many cases, it is connected.
It is.
Mental health and addictions can cause a big, big stir up in families.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. I've experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can really be nasty. So I think they do a great job at the Women's Transition House. I always support them. They really are a lovely group of people there working there. And I felt honored. I worked in the office quite a bit. I helped at Christmas time getting hampers prepared. I was honored to work in the actual house itself and help with organizing, cupboards and doing this, that, and the other. Yeah.
It's very meaningful work. And what I really love about what you're sharing is that this is a really good example for people even out in the world that, if we're affected by something in our lives, from our childhood, from our parents, from our families, I think most of us are. There's all things that we've all experienced, and they're not always easy. And those things can stay with us, and sometimes they can destroy us. But what I'm really seeing what you've done is you're using those experiences to even strengthen yourself, really, and strengthen the community. So you're going back and saying, I understand why this was. I'm not going to, fight it. I'm going to try to help the system. I'm going to try to help people. And there's healing for yourself as well.
Oh, it has been very helpful, because I'm that kind of person. I just can't sit back and watch something go down. I've got to help it and get it back where it needs to be. And not only does it help people who have a struggle with their mental health, but also helps our taxpayers too, because it's proven the Clubhouse model, once it's operating at full speed, following all those international standards I mentioned earlier, the 37 international standards, you have this very amazing thing happen. Like in Richmond, they had an independent study done by Success Markets, which is used by Charity Intelligence Canada to decide on top 10 impact charities. It was proven that their clubhouse in Richmond saved society $14 for every $1 invested in their clubhouse.
Wow. Because
their members were not using emergency services. They weren't going to hospital as much or never. And I've seen that with our own clubhouse too. We had I have a gentleman who was telling us he was going there every 2 weeks to emergency, and they would just turn him away because there's nothing they could do for him. It wasn't a clinical problem.
But it would still take time and being in the system. And
obviously he needs to be on the medication. I'm not saying it was not a medical problem. I mean, he needs the support medically.
He needed to go somewhere. He needed
somewhere to go and somewhere to belong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he said he's not going there anymore.
Wow.
So even if we can keep just a couple of people from using those services, we're paying for ourselves.
Huge. And I think that is good for people to hear, because then you see the benefit. Sometimes it comes down to those dollars and cents. Like, what's the point of this program if it's not affecting me? But no, look, it's affecting all of us.
It is.
When we all win in our society, like when everyone has an opportunity, we all win.
We do. We do. And I had the privilege to meet Jonathan Beard. He lives in Seattle, and he's the son of John Beard, who was the real glue that put the Clubhouse model together.
Yeah.
And he had a saying, and I might be able to not, it was a simple saying. He said, not only is Clubhouse a good deal, it's a good, I've forgotten it. I'd forget it, but it just made so much sense. It's not, you're not just helping people, and it's not a question of helping and handouts.
No.
You're actually giving people tools
to
get back on track.
To be like high functioning members of society that are enjoying and, giving back, and it's just amazing.
And it can affect anybody, your mental health. It can affect, doesn't matter your age, your gender, your education, your background, your nationality, anything. It can affect anybody at any time.
I think that's important to know. I think it's important for everyone to be aware of. It's not just those people. Mental health it can affect any of us at any time.
Yeah. So I hope moving forward, I hope people look at what's worked elsewhere in the world and use those examples and move forward and put those funds there instead of, kind of band-aid the situation.
Yes, like let's support the things that work. And so what's your favorite part of working with Connections Place?
Well, it's been the members.
Yeah.
I was volunteering there quite a bit in the early days, and I've met a lot of members, and it's lovely to see them walk in the door. So my favorite part is the members, and on the Clubhouse community, it's this everybody who works in Clubhouse are like-minded. They're just a can-do group of people and positive.
Love it.
Yeah, and I just, one of my first questions to Dave McDonald when I was researching this in 2014 was, so what do you do with somebody who, because one of the complaints I had from somebody who was against Clubhouse, who works in the clinical end of things, they said, oh, it's just a place to go and hang out and have coffee.
You're like, it's so much more.
And it'll turn into a dump.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I thought, it's not what I've seen. It's not what I've heard. It's not what I've experienced.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And I asked Dave McDonald, I said, so what would you do? He's the executive director of Pathways in Richmond. I said, what would you do if somebody wants to come in and just have a cup of coffee? He'd say, come on in and have a cup of coffee. Join us. So I'd rather them be doing that than out on the street, cold, alone, and not having anybody. And those folks, we've had it happen to us too. I've seen it with my own eyes. They come in the door and they can just be. It's a club to belong to. And then one thing leads to another, to another, to another. Each person has their own road. Not everybody wants to go back to work.
Yeah.
No, not everybody does. Maybe they want to continue on with their education.
Yeah.
They help with that too. They help people. Clubhouse helps people reach those goals as well. So really the sky's the limit.
Just, I think it's important for everyone to feel like they belong somewhere.
And I don't know if I have time to explain about the Clubhouse in Indiana where we went for training. Andrea enjoyed me too, Andrea Paquette.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, tell us, please.
Well, their clubhouse in Fort Wayne, Indiana, is on this huge property. I've got a picture of it here. Carriage house.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. So it was donated to them, I believe, the property, and
Wow.
Many years ago now.
Amazing.
20 years ago. But it's on so much property that at the back of it, as funding allowed, they built this amazing space to hold training sessions.
Oh, wow.
Brand new. It's beautiful. So, and it's big, and above it is space for people to stay and sleep. So it's on site. Everything is on site. And the members learn hospitality skills, bed and breakfast skills, because they do everything related to that. Food, accommodation, even picking us up from the airport in a van.
Cool. Driving
us back to the airport, making sure all our needs were met. Everything was on site. And so that's an example of what the clubhouse can do.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It was, and it was beautifully done. It was just so professional.
It's a very special experience.
It was special. I was so enthusiastic. I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't this be wonderful to be in our own city here and have all this happen?
Wow. And I feel like just that the clubhouse is in so many cities, and it just keeps growing and building. If we keep supporting it, it will just keep going along that way and just changing lives, really. Just before we leave, Jackie, do you have any advice to give to those that are maybe, struggling with their mental health right now, or even their caregivers?
Well, connect with other people. You're not alone. Reach out to others and look after yourself. Get out there and get some exercise. Eat well the best you can.
Yeah.
And don't watch TV all day long. The news and what have you. Just stay away from all of that.
Yeah.
You can read a book, try to read a book, but get out there and connect with people. And if you do live in Richmond, or you live in Sechelt, if you live anywhere where there's a clubhouse International website, try to find out what's there and connect with people like Andrea Paquette in the Stigma-Free Zone. Just get out there and do the best you can. That's all any of us can do, right? My mother used to say, just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what you have to do. You just have to keep doing that.
Wow. And yeah, I can just imagine the experiences and yet still saying, just put one foot in front of the other and you've got this. And I just want to thank you so much, Jackie, for being with us today and sharing your story. I think it's a very meaningful one that can help so many families. And so, as Jackie said, just use whatever your experiences are to go out, maybe volunteer, go check out a clubhouse. If you're in the Lower Mainland, or if you're on the island, there's different places where it's located across the world. Build your community. You're not alone. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jackie.
Thanks, Nisha. Thank you.
Have an amazing day and keep up the amazing work.
Thanks, Nisha. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.
Bye.